Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventures.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a special guest today, Chuck Rudd. Met Chuck at the Yeti 100. He had a pretty inspiring story that we'll get to here in a little while. But Chuck, if you don't care, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into running.
Sure. Well, I am a father of two, father of two. I live about 20 miles north of the loveliest village on the plains in Auburn, Alabama. We live in a little small town, Valley, Alabama. It's one of the great things I love about kind of the trail running community. It's like it reminds me so much of my hometown, the tight-knit, close community that we have. But really got into running. I honestly can't pinpoint when I got into running. I know I started kind of when we had our first son, kind of really started to focus more on fitness, realized that needed to do something if I was going to keep up with these kids. And started really just working out, not really running, just kind of lifting weights and, doing what I did all through college, kind of lifting weights for an hour and then doing 30 minutes cardio at the end to finish that up. But at some point, we had a group that got started in our church. We called ourselves the Outdoor Adventure Team. And we started out mountain biking and then started doing some running and some trail running. And we did a couple of 5Ks and enjoyed that. Then did a couple of 10Ks. We started a 10K. Thought it was the longest race I'd ever do in my entire life. I mean, it was just miserable. And we did that, finished it, and was talking to one of the guys that was in it with me and was like, hey, man, I think I'm going to sign up for a half. And so we found a half marathon that ran at the track at Talladega, Alabama. And it's no longer a race, unfortunately, but it was a cool first half marathon. And so we both signed up, went and did that. That was probably back in 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. Finished it, and I'll never forget, we were sitting at the post-race meal or party or whatever you want to call it. And I said, man, that was kind of fun. I was like, but you know what it made me want to do? And he looked at me and said, do a full. And I said, yep, that's absolutely. So we both the next year signed up for the Disney Marathon. It went down. He was not able to go with me eventually, but I went down, did the Disney Marathon 1 year. Had a pretty good experience down there. It was fun. Then we went back the next year and did the Goofy Challenge, which is where you do the half on Saturday, the full on Sunday. They didn't have the Dopey Challenge yet, but in true what I didn't even know was going to be Ultrarunner fashion, I looked for the longer race, went into that completely unprepared, undertrained, and just suffered through it and got it done somehow. It was a fun experience, but after that, just kind of ran a lot of local stuff and was kind of enjoying it. And then we did a Bible study at our church, Run for God. It was like a Bible study with a couch to 5K type program. And one of my best friends from elementary school all through high school did that Bible study, and he started running. And he did the 5K, and at the end of it, he said, I don't know why anybody want to run longer than 3 miles. I said, well, you never know. And we didn't really stay super close, but it wasn't long. He called me to come pace him in a 100-miler. And I was like, man, I didn't even know that existed. And so at the time, I mean, I'd done a few little trail runs just out on my own. I think I'd done one trail race maybe, but he was running the Pinhoti 100, and I went and paced him for 25 miles or so of that. And man, I just fell in love with the community. I mean, it was to see the outpouring of support that was there for him, and I'll tell a little bit more about my experience later. But that was kind of the hook that got me. I said, "There's something about these people that I can get down with." You know, I mean, I'm not a fast guy, but like they were celebrating the people that were coming in last. You know, and I'm like, this is cool. Like I can have fun with this, and so. I started running a few trail races, got involved with a local series that do here, and still actually have next week a race in that series. It's a great little 5K, 10K, half marathon type deals they have, and ran a few of those, and then I decided to make the leap. I think it was 2018. I signed up for my first 50K, was the Yeti Snakebite. And this is back when Snakebite was in late August. Now he's kind of moved the date and it's a little cooler, but this was back, it was mid to late August because I ran it and then 2 weeks later ran the Georgia Jewel 50 miler. So I didn't just kind of.
It looks like Yeti Snakebite was September 8th.
Okay. Well, maybe
So that makes sense why you're saying it's warm. It's right at the middle of summer.
Yeah, I didn't just dip my toe in the water of Ultra. I dove head first. I did Yeti Snakebite, had a great time there, and then the Georgia Jewel was. I didn't know what I'd signed up for. It was. I've heard you guys talking about your experience.
Did you find the rock garden fun?
Man, the rock garden. So I got a story about the rock garden. I'm not fast, but I wanted to get to the rock garden before it got dark. I was so afraid of being in that rock garden at night by myself. And in my crazy ultra math head, I had figured out I was golden. I don't know what I was thinking. There was no shot that I was getting there before dark. Like it was so pitch black dark by the time I got there. That thing is brutal, man. It is brutal. But at that race, several things happened that really kind of sunk the hooks of me in the ultra world. Is I was amazed that there were so many people there that their only reason for being out there was my success. Um, they're so from the volunteers, to the ham radio guys that are out there. I mean, their whole reason for being there was mine and the other runners' success. Not just mine. And so I was just amazed by that and fell in love with that kind of vibe. But then too, my wife and her best friend and at the time he was 14, I think. My oldest son were my crew, and there are very few things that a dad can do in the eyes of his 14-year-old son and just look like an absolute beast. And when my son would meet me coming into the aid station, like that look he gave me, I'm like, I got to get more of this. Like, I'm setting that example for him that, well, we always have the saying around our family, we can do hard things. Like, no matter what it is, we can do hard things. And, he saw me succeed there. And it was a brutal race. It was hot that year, and there were people dropping like flies. I don't know who this person was up on top of John's Mountain, but he had freezer pops up on top of John's Mountain, and that was a race saver for me, man. Like, they were just these little, what I'm talking about, the ones you just cut the end off of.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. So got that, and then really I think the last aid station is the last crude aid stations at Snake Creek.
Snake Creek.
Yep. That aid station, I was suffering pretty good, and never really hinted at I had any ideas of quitting, but just the look in his face. There's no shot that I'm quitting. It's was really awesome for him to see me struggle, but to persevere through that. And so I finished that one, and I was just hooked, man. From not just running ultras, but from that point on, and I've tried to do this every year since. Is my wife and I try to volunteer at least as many races as I run every year. I think the volunteers have made such a big difference for me in every race, really. I mean, I can pinpoint this past time it was at Green Cove, the potato soup at Green Cove. I mean, it was probably the cheapest potato soup on the planet. My goodness, it was delicious. At mile 70, whatever, it was amazing. And so yeah, we after that I was kind of hooked in, and I think that kind of led up to my 2020 Yeti.
Well, I was going to say, you to have a race where you struggle that much, but yet you see the camaraderie in this trail running community that we have around here, and then also your son watching you struggle and fight. I mean, dude, that's an amazing moment. I can see why you got hung up on that. I mean, that's kind of what we all strive for. We're doing this not only for ourselves. Some of us, we're trying to find our why, and we're trying to find, what our limit is.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I think it's so humbling for your kids to see you succeed and to fail and to keep fighting. And I mean, things aren't always going to work, but you did that, and I mean, that is awesome. I mean, I can see just by the look on your face, that was a very touching moment for you. So, I mean, I could see why you got sucked in at that moment.
Yeah. I saw a post you had a while back on Instagram about finding your why. And so when we were talking about doing this, and I was kind of thinking about what is my why. And I mean, that's it. I mean, it's setting that example for my family and my kids, and knowing that, it's okay to do things that scare the crap out of you, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, I'm going into this snake bite thing or not snake bite, the Georgia Jewel that, snake bite was tough in its own right, but it's 3 loops. So, it's only 10 miles I'm out on there. Georgia Jewel's a point to point 50 miler.
Yeah. With a rock garden.
With a rock garden.
Lots of climbing by yourself.
Yeah, it was, I thought about, maybe I should have taken a pacer, but 50 miler, I'm good with that. But it was an interesting experience out there by myself in the woods at night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, your first experience, that was probably your first big experience by yourself, wasn't it?
It was. First experience running by myself at night. I paced at Penhody at night, but that's with not only my runner, but there were other runners around us at the time too. And it's a big difference in that and being out on your own. I don't think I didn't run long enough to hallucinate, but there were definitely some people out there waving those flags. I never could find them, but they were there. I kept thinking that they're up there somewhere. I know they're up there somewhere.
Well, that helped me understand a lot, because when I was looking at your stuff, I told David and Matt earlier, I was like, man, we're looking at 10K, and that little half marathon. I said, all of a sudden we just throw 100-miler in there. I said, this guy sounds exactly like us. Like,
yeah.
Like training plan. What training plan? So
That's it.
I really love your story on there.
So 2020 Yeti, I mean, that was, you talk about training plan out the window. I was pretty well trained for that race. So I volunteered at several of Jason's races and had done a couple of them. And I just always, I wanted Yeti 100 to be my first 100 miler. I mean, it just, that community is still so special to me. What Jason has created is like nothing else I've been a part of. I mean, it's an amazing group of people, and he does such a good job of keeping it what it needs to be, you know. So I wanted that to be my first 100 miler, and so yeah, we make the trip. It's the COVID year, so it's a modified course. Yeah, it was interesting. We get up there, and I actually have a abscessed tooth that starts on the way up to the race, and it's hurting, and I'm like not feeling great about this thing. You know, at packet pickup the night before, it's like the forecast is terrible for weather, and I wake up race morning and my mouth is absolutely throbbing. I mean, it's a tooth up here that's just terrible, terrible pain. And I look up, we're in a loft in a cabin, and there's a skylight on it, and the skylight's just getting pounded with rain. And I'm like, I even need to go start this thing. Like, you know, I mean, what's the point really? Because I, at that point, I was kind of a little defeated, honestly. But the thing that got me up is I had friends who were going to pace me driving up that day, and I was like, I can't tell them that my tooth was hurting, and I decided not to run. So I got up, got started. I keep calling her my wife's best friend, but I'm great friends with her husbands, and we're friends, but we're family. I mean, they're you know, you got those friends that are just a part of your family, and that's how this group is. And she actually drove me to the start line and prayed over me there at the start line, and just kind of gave me this sense of peace about it. So I'm like, all right, well, I've got this plan. Well, let's get after it, you know. And Jason yells at all of us because it's COVID and we're all huddled up under the tent under there, and he gets mad at us because we're supposed to be socially distancing, but it's pouring down rain, so everybody just huddles up under the tent, and we all get out there and start. So we're starting from Damascus at that point, going up to Green Cove, and honestly, man, my race plan that I had, like a run walk strategy, it ended before mile one. I was not a mile in, and I'm like, I really underestimated that 3% grade. It was just enough to engage a little bit of the climbing muscles, and it's deceptive, man. It really is, and so I kind of changed things around a little bit, and just was able to kind of suffer through. My wife, in the meantime, is on the phone with my dentist, trying to get me some prescriptions called into a pharmacy in Damascus. And so when I meet back up with them, they're pumping me full of antibiotics and all this stuff, trying to get this tooth fixed, and or at least enough to where I can make it through it. So I go out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the course that year, but we went up to Green Cove, and then we had to do 4 out and backs just past Alvarado. So it was very different. You know, you didn't get the whole course, and you repeated it a lot more. So on my second out and back, I kicked something, and I broke my big toe on my right foot. I sat down on the side of the trail.
So you survived the rock garden at Georgia Jewel without breaking a toe?
And I kicked a rock on the creeper trail.
I love it.
Absolutely. Hey, I've said that to myself before. But yeah, so I sat down on the side of the trail. I probably cussed a little bit. I cried a little bit. I really was just in bad way. And
I mean, is there bikers going by at the same time with family and kids, and they were just kind of looking at you at the same time, like, what's wrong with that guy?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, everybody's just kind of looking at me like, what's this guy doing? It was terrible. And I finally decided, look, I got to get up and make it back to Damascus. And I started hobbling along, and um, at this point was when I was going to pick up my pacer for the first time. And these guys had driven 8 hours. Um, and I just couldn't say, hey guys, thanks for driving 8 hours. Let's turn around and go home. And so we got to the Damascus aid station. My wife took my shoes and my socks off, and I've got a friend that's very experienced ultra runner, and we have a picture of him when he saw my foot, and it's amazing because he's like, I mean, it was just disgust when he saw my foot, and I just told him, so let's get a sock on it. If I don't mention the foot, y'all don't mention the foot, and let's just go get it done. And just was kind of able to put it in the back of my mind. I mean, it obviously didn't feel great, but we didn't talk about it. We would talk about it after the race was over, and I had to walk the last 55 miles of the thing. Couldn't run at all. Yeah, that's worse than running. It really is.
Yeah,
But
it makes things hurt a whole lot more.
absolutely, I never believed that. I never believed that until I was running 100 at mile 95, and I'm like, wow, my feet don't hurt as bad. But yeah, walked the last of it in. I didn't finish DFL, but I wasn't far from it. And we finished the race. Got that done. So I got the buckle. Was super proud of that. Got the picture with all the family and the crew, the the kids. It was just a whole big family affair. I probably had the biggest crew of anybody up there.
So do you think if you wouldn't have had a crew that you wouldn't have finished?
Probably not that time. I really, it was a good kind of peer pressure. I mean, and honestly, one of my pacers / crew is a guy that I've known him my entire life. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We ran around these woods. I actually have moved back to the neighborhood I grew up in, and so I look around
cool.
my house. Yeah, we love our little small town, but he has known me long enough and is good enough friend to me to be a jerk to me. I mean, he's that guy for me that offers no compassion.
Man, you need friends like that.
You definitely need those. Definitely.
You do. You absolutely do. And so I did not want to tell him that I was quitting when he just drove 8 hours to come up and pace me. And so he took me out on the last two out and backs, and really he had to. It sounds funny when I say he had to push me hard to get like a 19-minute mile out of me, but at that point, with my foot in the shape it was in, that was pushing as hard as I could push. He kept telling me he was going to take it easy on me when we turned around, and he never did. I got so mad at him. He never took it easy on me at all.
Well, what kind of emotion did you have when you crossed that finish line after walking for 55 miles?
It was big. So my pacer kind of left me those last. So we were coming across those bridges going into the creeper cottages there, and he kind of left me to cross those on my own. He took off running and was like, you just kind of soak it in for this last quarter mile here, what we've just done. And I remember, because Jason was kind of set up off to the side, and I remember him when he saw me, and I had run a couple of Jason's races and had volunteered at a few, but when he saw me, he just screamed out, "It's Chuck!" And I was like, "Wow, this dude knows me by name," and that had made the emotions come even more, and it was a big finish, but honestly, it was a blur, man. I mean, I was. Not to say I don't remember it, but it was just so much more of a blur, I think, than this other one, because it was. I really think that just having to walk for so long, mentally just beats you down.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to run. We're not trail walkers. We're trail runners.
Did you ever imagine?
We don't train to walk.
Yeah. Did you ever imagine that in your training at all that you would be walking that distance at all, like fathom at all? Or?
Absolutely not. I mean, I trained power hiking. I was doing my run walk strategy that lasted about half a mile. Was run 3/4 of a mile. Yeah. Run 3/4 of a mile and then walk a 1/4 mile.
Right.
So each mile I was getting 3/4 run and 1/4 walk, and that kind of gave me some time to hydrate, to get some nutrition in, all that, and that strategy went out the window pretty quick. But that was the plan. But never did I think that I would be walking that much.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how we were at Ball State. Exactly. None of us knew we were going to walk that much, so that was an eye opener and a lot of new pains.
Absolutely,
definitely.
So we understand your feelings.
Just your feet and your ankles from just that walking instead of just gliding over the trail. You're actually like, I don't know, it's hard.
It is, and I, like I said, I have always heard that it hurts less when you're running, and I never believed it. I'm like, that's stupid. That makes no sense. But it's true, man. I mean, my feet were in such better shape this last 100 that at the end, I mean, there was not much. I mean, there was a little bit of difference. I didn't break a toe this time, so that was a little better. But no, it was in so much better shape. I mean, it's amazing how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah, I mean that's where your training's at. That's where you're focusing, and when just like I'm sure same with you and with these guys. Like when we were walking at Ball State, I had so many new pains I'd never experienced. I was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
And finally, on like day 4, when we start running, those pains start going away. I mean, granted, you can't run 314 miles without walking some. So my plan was not very good and not very well executed. So I understand your pain. Like I started walking within like 30 miles and I had no intentions of that. And it just completely changed my entire race.
Yeah.
Literally at mile 20, I come across David and I was like, something's went wrong with his plan. So, because it was not my plan to be with David at all.
I know. I'm sitting like,
we all three had totally different plans.
I'm like, I don't know where Mock's at. That's where I'm like, we're checking Snapchats. I'm like, I don't know where Mock's at. And then Mary texted or called or texted. She goes, yeah, Mock caught David. I'm like, oh, either Mock's going way too fast.
Yeah, that's thinking that's my plan.
Or something happened with
somebody's way too fast or somebody way too slow.
I was like, great, I've blown my whole plan. There
was a lot of red flags on day 1.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's hats off to you guys for that thing, man. That race, it scares me. It really does. It's that thing is a whole new beast. That much asphalt, man.
That much asphalt is rough.
I'm sure.
It was way more than what we anticipated as far as just the whole logistical thing. We way underestimated all of it.
Well, I didn't think that the feet would go that fast.
Yeah.
You do all these other training runs, you do other 100-milers, and your feet don't go like that. But then when your feet go like that, it changes up how you run this way. Then this starts hurting, then that starts hurting, and and then you're just at that point. Then you're walking, and then everything's hurting because you're not moving. You're doubling your time by walking.
And Chuck's like, do it with a broke toe after kicking a pedal up the Yeti.
Oh yeah, that was a disaster.
Well, Chuck, it looks like it looks like up to this point you've had success, no issues. I shouldn't say issues. Everybody has issues in every run.
Yeah,
but you've finished. You've hit your goals of completing. You may not hit your times, or you may have walked in the first 5 minutes, but you still finish the races. And then it looks like you roll into 2021 and you tackle a pretty big race that we're pretty well aware of, and that looks like the Tennessee Miles on here.
Oh yeah. That was so I had Tennessee Mile. I kind of like a lot of folks saw the coverage of Mid-State with Chad, Greg Armstrong, was just super inspired by that, and I was like, man, I got to get up there and see what this thing's about. How bad can a mile really be? It's just a mile. Can't you hear Big John saying that? It's just a mile.
Oh yeah. I've heard it a lot. But heard it a lot over the years.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I signed up for the thing, and I was talking to, I can't even remember who it was before the start. I signed up for the 40 hour, but I went into it not planning on running the whole 40 hours. I had to drive home and be at work the next morning, and so I was going to run a little bit, sleep a little bit, and all that. And so I told Big John, he kind of asked us all what our goals were before it started, and I said, look, I had DNF'd Yeti a few months before, had a lot of stomach issues and cramping issues, and had my first DNF, and I said, I just want to get to that dark place and not quit. I just want to get there and keep going. And so I was talking to someone. I was like, I don't think I'm going to take my poles out on this first loop. And they just kind of chuckled and was like, yeah, just bring your poles, man. And I was glad I brought my poles, because it doesn't take long before you're going straight up. And I think I've heard you guys talk about it. The straight up's not what got me. It's the straight down. Those descents just over and over just beat your quads to death. And but I did there. I went into the second night. I ran some the first night, and then the second night started cramping real bad. Not really having a lot of stomach issues, but I was just, that course is, if you're cramping, it's brutal, because there's no flats to kind of work anything out on, So I was cramping pretty bad, and went to my car, and I was sleeping in my car, and I went to my car and was kind of just debating on whether to call it quits, and I said, well, you know what? This is what I was looking for. This was that dark spot that I was looking for, and so I stayed in the car for a little while, long enough to kind of ease things up, and hobbled around the course a few more times, and I'd come around every time, and I told Becca that I wasn't going to do that many more laps, and I'd come around. Every time I'd come around, I'd just say, just one more. Let's do. I think I got one more, and I was proud. I mean, I didn't get the miles that I'd set out to get, but I was proud that I found that dark place and kept going. Found that will to get back out there. Because the first DNF messed me up, man. I mean, I was we talk about that look on my son's face when he sees me being successful. Well, then it absolutely killed me when he's looking at me and I'm saying, I'm not going to go home. I had a lot of issues in 2021 with stomach issues, and couldn't couldn't keep food, couldn't keep fluids down, and just started whole body cramps and just nasty stuff. And at one point, it took me. I remember it took me like 3.5 hours to get from Abington to Alvarado, which is like 8 miles, I think. And I in my head, again, we're so good at ultra math, but in my head, I thought I'm gonna time out. Like I'm not gonna have to quit. Like because when I get to the aid station, I'm gonna be timed out. Well, I get there, and because I've been running so well early, I had like 2 hours left before the cutoff, and but I couldn't go on. I could not. I couldn't stop cramping, and I couldn't go out for another 4 hour 8 mile stretch, and so had that first DNF, and it hurt. I mean, you're thinking you're doing this thing, and you're having some success, and like you said, I may not have gotten time goals and everything, but I had been successful. I finished every race, and so it was pretty rough. Put me in a bad spot there for a little while.
Yeah. So 2020, you break a toe and, walk 55 miles, finish Yeti 100.
Yeah.
And in 2021, you have GI issues. Sounds like you were still running pretty well in the early beginning. Is the GI issues what took you out of the race?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I had a plan for electrolytes and water. I was going to do 1 bottle of electrolytes, 1 bottle of water, and I don't know why I didn't stick to the plan. But my wife told me when I said I want 2 bottles of electrolytes, she said that's not the plan, and I said, well, I know what I need, and I didn't stick to the plan. I think I may have gotten oversalted or something, man. I started swelling like crazy at first.
Oh yeah, well, then you definitely were taking too much salt.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I had my watch, it looked like a sausage on either side. It was swelling up so bad, and then started throwing up, and got to the point just where I couldn't keep anything down, and so spent some time at the aid station trying to get patched up. Thought we had stuff fixed, and then I went back out, got like half a mile out, and it started right back, and so. The GI distress, cramping, all that is kind of what, and honestly, looking back, the thought of walking another 50 miles to finish that thing was just very daunting.
Is that where you were at? You were at mile 50?
Yeah, right at mile 50. And so I just, my goal that year, I think I put too many eggs into the sub 24 basket. And then when that was out the window, it was hard to find that motivation to keep going, and that was something I had to fix in my head. I mean, it was definitely a weakness that I discovered out there, and but physically, I don't know that it was such a death crawl, man. I mean, it like there were times I get so mad because there'd be dashes on the watch. It wouldn't even be recording a speed. It was so slow.
That's when you needed some pacers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drove 8 hours to help you.
Yeah. But we had, everybody on the Yeti course is always so supportive, but even at that point, I was getting like, "You sure you're okay, man?" like it wasn't a good job. It was like, "You sure you're all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good."
Chuck, I think we've all, I know I have, and I know David has, I'm not sure about Matt yet, had a DNF. Do you feel like, I don't want to say a blessing because you never won it, but do you feel like it made you a stronger runner now when you look back at it? And
now, yes. We had a lot of things we had to fix between 2021 Yeti and 2023 Yeti. Mentally, physically, had a lot of things to get figured out. I think my biggest fear was that the first DNF is going to make the second DNF easier to cope with. And that made me sick to my stomach to think that, this side, that quitting was going to become the norm. And so had to kind of go back to the drawing board. I had some health issues and a couple nagging injuries. I don't think I towed the line at a single race in 2022. Just had a lot of issues going on, but started off 2023 training pretty well. Things are moving along pretty well, and I signed up for this. It was a first year 100-mile race called the Bootlegger. It was at Dawson Trails Nature Center over in Georgia, and put on by a great bunch of folks, man. I mean, they were the race. They did an outstanding job on that race. Aid station was amazing. All the volunteers were great, and I got out on that thing and had a great race through about 50 miles, and then the GI distress came back, and got to that point again where I couldn't keep anything going, couldn't keep anything down, couldn't keep any nutrition, then no fluids, and I timed out there. So I think they had me listed as a 50-mile finish there, but that up here, that's a 100-mile DNF. It's not a 50-mile finish. But had to figure some things out. So I hired a coach. So
you hired a coach after your second DNF?
Yeah, I did.
Well, not really a DNF. You got a 50-miler, but
yeah, but it was a DNF because I didn't finish what I wanted to. So got a coach because I was signed up for Yeti this past year, and got a coach because I knew I had some things to figure out. So I got a coach and started working, and I didn't really know what to expect from a coach, whether it was just going to be, they were going to tell me when to run and I'd run or all that. But it was way more than that. I mean, she really helped me with nutrition, with a race plan, helped me figure out what I can eat and what I need to stay away from out there. One of my crew members coined the phrase that we are now Team Tender Tummy.
Tender Tummy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pretty good. That's pretty
good.
That's
almost on that.
Yeah, Matt likes to puke a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, it happens to the best of us, man.
Well, now Matt sets the bar though on puking and rallying. He'll just keep running. Yeah. He'll just keep going. Nice. He'll puke, keep going.
And the trick is, I'll tell you the trick is to slap yourself as hard as you can in the face.
I've heard about this. I've heard you mention it.
As hard as you can, and instantly you forget about throwing up. Okay. And you're like, whoa, I just about got knocked out. And so then you kind of do a reset for a while.
Yeah,
people were just randomly looking at you though, like, "What's this guy got going on?"
Yeah, he's throwing up and hitting himself. What's wrong with this guy?
Now, did you get a coach to specifically train for Yeti?
Yes. Well, yes, and long term too. I mean, I not just for Yeti, but that was the main race for this year. Got more plans for next year, but specifically for Yeti, yeah.
So, question for you for the DNF that you had was Yeti 2022, right?
21. 2022, I DNF'd. I did not start.
So 2021, you DNF'd, and I don't think I've ever seen this before until I saw it at your finish line this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a DNF bracelet.
Yes. Well,
So
so
can you
they
tell us about the bracelet and how
sure,
you ended up with the bracelet, and
sure.
also how you decided to keep the bracelet as a reminder?
Yeah. So they at Packet Pickup in 2021, they put on, I guess, all the runners. They put a little bracelet on us, said "No sleep till Abingdon," and it was just a little orange piece of ribbon with a little black ball that held it in place, and I guess you were supposed to just kind of identify who the runners are out there on the course or whatever, and so I did DNF that year, and one of the things that really kept me motivated to go back and redeem myself was looking at that bracelet. I kept that thing on, uh, much to the chagrin of my wife. I kept that thing on for 2 years. I mean, you couldn't take it off and put it back on. It was there. You were cutting it off,
I'm
and so
guessing it wasn't even orange at this point, right?
no, 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 no. It was brown and threadbare and pretty rough shape. I work on baseball fields for a living, and so it had kind of a red clay tint to it, and so it was not the color that it was supposed to be.
So why did you keep it on?
Just as a reminder, it was a reminder of, I guess, I hate to say a failure, but it was. It was a reminder of a failure, and to keep it from happening again, man. I mean, it just that DNF just sat, you know, having to have the conversation. My son was 16 at this time when he was there, and he comes up to me and consoles me and tells me, "Hey, Dad, you're still a beast in my eyes." Like and I just lost it. You talk about emotions, man. When that happened, dude, that got me. And so I kept it on there just to not let it happen again. And when things would get hard, I ran a 50 miler in training for Yeti this year. I ran a 50 miler, Southern Fried 50s on asphalt in Columbus, Georgia in August, fully exposed, no shade. It's awful. I mean, it was. I don't know why I signed up for that thing. I mean, I knew what the race was when I signed up, but I mean, they don't try to tell you it's going to be all covered and nice and neat or anything like that. It's known for being a brutal race, and there were times that I had to really look down at my wrist and be like, this is all part of it. This is part of getting back and getting that finish. So, yeah, I kept that bracelet on. I was really hoping it was getting really threadbare, man. I mean, it was hanging on by a few threads, and at one point I hung it on I was dragging an infield at work, and I hung it on the infield drag, and it kind of popped, and I was like, oh no, I pulled it off. It was like 2 weeks before the race, and it was just popped a couple of threads on it. So I had about two or three little threads left holding it together. But wore that thing into 2023 Yeti start, and so get to that start, and I am probably, as far as 100-miler shape, I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life at that start line. I feel great. I had never, before I hired a coach, I didn't know what a recovery week was. I was 100% build. I mean, I
Yep.
just built every week, and I didn't recover. So that was a new thing to me. And
So now, did your whole family come with you to the
absolutely.
20? Okay, so you
Well,
had
the
your
whole
son
family,
there.
the whole family was not able to, unfortunately. I had actually both of my sons. One of my sons is in college, and he's playing college baseball, and so he is They were having their fall baseball season, so he was right in the middle of his freshman baseball season, and then my youngest son had a band competition that weekend, so neither one of them were able to go. But my extended family, they were able to go. It's my wife's best friend and her son Jake. Jake's a young man that's a big part of the story of my finish. If you saw them out on the course, they all had neon yellow shirts that said "I won't do it, but I'll crew it," and they had hats.
I remember those shirts.
They were hard to miss, but it worked out great. I could spot them from a mile away when I was coming up the trail. But we had a plan for my nutrition, and we stuck to that plan. That plan worked great for about the first 50 miles or so. We stuck to it, and I was eating great, was moving great. Started having it. I guess it was at the Damascus aid station at mile 50, the second time through, I started having some stomach issues, and in the back of my mind, like, well, here we go. Yep. And we start out. I picked up a pacer there. We started out heading up to Taylor's Valley, and the GI distress got worse. When I talk about, I had a half a banana. And it took every bit of mental grit I had to choke down that half a banana at one point, because it was just forcing it down, and knew I needed the calories. And
if you would have smacked yourself, it would have went right down.
I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that in the future. But we get up to Taylor's Valley, and it's starting to get bad. I mean, I'm not feeling great at all. And this young man Jake, I've called him Jake for his whole life. I call him Jake, and he calls me Chuck right back. And we're sitting there, and Jake says, Chuck, can I pray for you? And this young man, I mean, Jake's 11 years old, and he leads amongst all my crew there, leads the most amazing prayer. And it's a prayer from a young man. He said, God, and just please don't let Chuck puke, which was awesome to hear there. But man, that was a big part of what kept me going, was just having him there and leading that. We set out, and we got up to Green Cove, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to eat a little of this potato soup. Ate a little bit of that, and we headed up to White Top, and I said, I think we'll get a little bit more of that potato soup on the way down, and things got better from there, man. I learned it doesn't always get worse. I'd heard that, but I never believed it until it really happened, and it does. Stomach issues don't always get worse. Sometimes it gets better. You just gotta slap yourself in the face and roll on.
You're exactly right. You have to have, the knowledge to know that you can turn it around no matter how bad it gets. Like stomach issues or pains, you can try to fix them. Injuries are a little different, but you can always try to fix it. And man, just thinking back to your son, that, I know that he's not there this year, or he wasn't there this year, but I think it's pretty cool too, though, to think about, that moment, the moments you all have already had in these ultras, and then to sit here and think like, without that risk of failure, there's no chance of success anyway. So I like you lining up at that start line regardless this year. I mean, wearing the bracelet for 2 years and reminding yourself every day of kind of that burden of, I didn't do this, and that's your goal, and I'd imagine that's probably why you were wearing it. You knew you were going back to tackle this thing.
Yeah.
And then at mile 50, you have this,
Mm-hmm.
I bet that was a super humbling experience just all the way through.
Absolutely.
What did your son say? Did you get to talk to him?
So he was texting me. He was I don't know if he was staying up to text me or if he's just a freshman in college and he's staying up all night. But he was yeah, probably so. But he was texting me, just keep moving forward, Dad, and it doesn't take much when you're at mile 85 to get emotional, but a text from your 18-year-old son that it didn't have to say much, just say keep moving forward and those type things, and let me know he was thinking about me, and both my boys they were locked in. They were mad they weren't able to be there, and they were locked in on seeing a finish happen. And once I got some food in me, there was never any doubt I was going to finish at that point. It was when we turned things around. I mean, it was things hurt, but what doesn't hurt when you've been on your feet for 24 hours?
Yeah.
It's just a part of it. But I kept moving, kept running. It's funny, and I know you guys have experienced this, but it always amazes me how you'll be in such a bad spot mentally, and then the sun comes up, and it's like,
Yep.
wow, I'm clear-headed again all of a sudden, and so got to experience that, and then finishing, man, I had a couple of folks that hung around the finish line to see me finish, and I guess I just have made so many friends in that Yeti community that it was the people finished in front of me and just waited around to see me finish, and then see Jason coming up, and Samantha got a picture of me going in for my finish line hug, and I mean, I think that's probably my favorite race picture I've got, because it really encapsulates the joy that I was feeling in that moment, and so I finish and get my hug, and then my wife is waiting with some scissors, and I get Jason to cut the bracelet off. That was something I can't even remember if it was my idea or my wife Kelly's idea, that we would get him to cut that bracelet off, and because he's become a friend. I mean, he really has, and to finish that race after how poorly things had gone, and honestly, before that race even started, I told my wife that, hey, if same thing happens here, 100-miler may not be for me. I may just be a 50K guy. That I love that 50K distance. You can run a race, suffer a little bit, and sleep in your own bed that night. That's but
that would only have lasted about 3 weeks, and then you've been on ultrasound up saying, here's another 100. Maybe I can try this one. I bet I can do this one.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all three quit running like 4 times in our races. So
so we finished that, and it was just that finish line, man. 2020, like I said earlier, was somewhat of a blur, but I really felt like the finish line this year, I was just able to take it all in, and it really soak in everybody that was there, cheering me on, and it was great. I love it. I love that race. We try, if I'm not going to run it, the year I DNS'd in 2022, I didn't start the race, but we still went up and volunteered, just because that's that race I think is going to be one I'm at every year, whether I'm running or not. But yeah, it was great to get that finish. And
how did it feel? What emotions did you have when Jason finally cut that bracelet off?
It was a lot, man. Gosh, the emotions were more, I think, this race than they were my first finish. It was odd, man. I mean, when I saw the finish line, it hit me back big time. I mean, I was just overwhelmed with this emotion, and when he cut it off, and then he brought me in for another hug. I mean, it was a lot of relief, just to get it done, but yeah, I mean, just really relief, the joy that I felt, and just having those people that are part of the race family. I mean, they're friends, but they're race family, they. This year, I told them, not our family, but our friends. I said, look, it's a lot for. I mean, Jake's missing school to come up and do this, which I'm sure he doesn't mind that. But they're pulling him out of school for a couple of days to come up and help me. And like, I understand if you guys don't want to come this year, and they were offended. They were like, you don't need us?" And I'm like, "Well, no, absolutely, I need you, but I just don't want to be that burden." But honestly, man, it's translated. They have found joy in this community too. My wife, none of them run. They don't run at all. They truly embody the "I won't do it, but I'll crew it." That, like their shirt said, they don't run at all, but they love the community as much as I do.
It is an amazing community. We're very blessed. I mean,
Mhm.
the Southeast here, we have amazing race directors. We have just a huge running community that is, like you said, they're so welcoming, they're so helpful. Just like it, regardless, you go to Yeti, Georgia Jewel, anywhere, people
Yeah, the
there
base,
want you
man.
to succeed, and that's what we're doing. We want to see people finish these races because we as race directors we don't put these races on because it's something that we personally just want to create a race.
Yeah.
We want to create those moments like
Yeah,
what you've done. And and you talk about all the people that you've met that know you at Yeti. Well, they met you and know you because your story is inspirational, Chuck. I mean, and that's why, even for like your kids, what you're doing for them and showing them, that's inspirational. That's why they're texting you at 1 o'clock in the morning saying, "Hey Dad, you rock, keep going."
yeah, yeah,
And that's what we all strive for, especially as race directors. I mean, that's why we created East Coast Adventures. We want
yeah,
to help, create those moments where people set themselves up for, success or failure. You really want the successes, but sometimes you need the failure to get to the success
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you can't get there. You can't hardly get there sometimes without failure.
Yeah,
And
we
I
hosted
mean,
a
I
a
love
little
your
event.
story.
Yeah, and it's kind of spilled over. There's a little 2.5 mile loop that I do most of my training on, and it runs along the banks of the Chattahoochee River. And I was out there one day running, and just saw there was a bald eagle perched on a limb, and when I got close to him, he took off, and he flying about that high off the water up the river, and it was just a beautiful sight. And I thought, more people need to see this down here, because
Yep.
I think I'm the only person that runs out there. And so we hosted an event out there last Mother's Day. I did a 12-hour and a 6-hour event out there, and it was small, but we're going to do it again this year.
What event is it?
So it's it's called Muddy Crud's Ultra Trail Party.
Okay,
Uh,
is this the shirt you're wearing?
it is, yeah, it is. So
Perfect.
I got about 1,000 of these shirts. That so
Welcome to Race
Muddy,
Direction.
yeah, absolutely. That is my wardrobe now.
Oh yeah.
Muddy Crud. My nickname was Crud in high school with C Rudd. Obviously, I got pinned with that, and then I sweat so much when I run that it doesn't matter if it's dusty. I'm gonna look like I've been running through the mud, because it just dust just sticks to me and becomes mud caked on me. So um, that's kind of where that came from, and we're doing. We do that race 12-hour and 6-hour on Mother's Day weekend, and then we're planning on doing a longer, trying to get a 100-mile event out there. I've had some interest in it. There's a, like I said, we live in a small town and we've got a lot of little things that we do. And there's for the Christmas season, they have a carousel. We call it the merry-go-round here in Valley, Alabama. But it was sponsored by the textile industry when they were here, and obviously that's gone now, and so it needs sponsors. And so I'm looking next year. I'm going to try to host a race out there to benefit that, and it'll be a benefit for the merry-go-round on a merry-go-round of loops out there. But the people that have been my crew have kind of turned into my volunteers, and they have been able to, take care of people at these races. I've helped with a couple other 5Ks and things like that, but it's been a cool thing, man. I really, I don't care if it never gets any bigger. We did the awards. If you're from my hometown, growing up, you had my mom's homemade bread at some point in your life. So the award for overall male and female in each event was a loaf of my mom's homemade bread.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I wanted the race to have a feel of my hometown. Really get you in the small town feels, and so we did that, and going to do it again next year, and see where it goes. But just try to grow this community, man. I've since we did the race, we've got some more people out there running on that trail, and that's the big thing for me is let's get more people out there, more people active. I used to weigh over 300 pounds, and we hadn't even really talked about that, but I'll never go back to that, and I've got a couple of buddies that have lost a lot of weight out there. They're walking and running on that trail now, and that's why I wanted to do the race. It really is get more people out there, more people active, and kind of find that joy in running that I found.
Well, and I know in the beginning you said you started running because you also had kids. Is that part of it? You wanted to be healthier, lose weight?
Absolutely. Probably, well, like I mentioned, my oldest son plays college baseball now, and realized early on, if I'm gonna coach him and I'm gonna be active with him, I got to be in decent shape, especially as he got older. I never wanted to. If he said, "Hey, Dad, can you go throw some BP or something?" the answer was going to be yes. And I've always tried to be there for both my boys and all that they do, and try to support them as much as I have. But part of that was getting healthy. It doesn't. You don't last long on a baseball, football, soccer, whatever they were doing, field coaching, being 300 pounds.
So Chuck just goes and says, 5Ks. I'm gonna do 100 miles.
I'm gonna do 100 miles.
I'm gonna give him real shape.
Show these
And I'm gonna walk 55 more miles with that.
Yeah. My friend that I told you he never cuts me any slack. We were getting towards the end of the time he was going to be with me, and he says, "This is the longest hike I've ever done." I'm like, "Thanks, man." You got to have a friend like that, man.
Oh, we've got a few of them.
Yeah, I'm sure these guys have too. I've gave Matt and Mike motivational speeches. So we all have to have those friends that are just real with us, and we need those in those moments. I mean, because we can get in our heads real bad quick.
Absolutely.
And just, we'll try to get to a closing point here in a minute, but, I just want to say this because I feel like, for that first Yeti you did, everything didn't go right, but you finished.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You even broke a toe and still finished. So do you feel like when you didn't finish it, did you feel like you had an expectation lining up at that starting line the second time?
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
There could be, almost a sense of entitlement. I've done this before. Finishes in the bag, a little cocky. I'm in better shape than I was last year. Of course, I'm going to finish. But
Yeah.
but that's the beauty of the 100 miler, is that it doesn't matter. If
No.
you're in great shape, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you cannot be in as good a shape going into it. Sometimes you can have a great plan, and at some point the plan's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really the beauty of the 100-mile distance to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for stuff to go wrong. There's a lot of opportunities for failure,
Yeah.
and I think that's some of the things that we all put on ourselves when we, like you said, you get that sense of entitlement. Like, you have a really good race and you line up at this next race and you're thinking, all right, I'm going to shave 30 minutes off my time. I'm going to shave 2 hours. And then in the first 10 minutes, you're walking and you're like, what has happened?
Yeah.
And, Matt's smacking himself. And
and then it's really hard to come out of that. But I think that's what I have found through this finish. We'll find out next year how well I've found it. But it's I think I have found that ability to step back a little bit and say, it's not always going to get worse. Things can get better when you're out there. If you just, my coach told me when we first started looking at a plan, she said, as long as there's time on the clock, keep moving. I don't care how slow you're moving, but as long as there's time on the clock, keep moving. And so that's kind of the plan we had. I told my wife and my crew that, barring any crazy injuries or anything like that, as long as there's time on the clock, I don't care how slow I'm moving, we're going to keep moving until there's no time on the clock anymore, or I finish.
I think what I found from a lot of these guys running with them is that they'll allow me to vent and say what I need to say, but after that, it's like, okay, let's get back to the plan.
Yeah.
And having people like that, coaches, pacers, etc., in your corner, say what you need to say, get it out of your system, and everything. But then we're going to get back to what we come here to do. So
that's right. I was pacing a buddy of mine out at Javelina, and I had to be that guy for him just a couple months ago, and he was complaining about his feet, and I was like, well, what'll help our feet is let's finish. The faster we run, the
who would have known?
Yeah. The less time we've got to spend on our feet. And we've all got to have that friend. We got to be that friend at some point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, Chuck, I'm going to let Matt finish with the questions. You got to give him a few minutes. He loses these notes every time.
Pretty quick over here.
He's getting better though.
Yeah,
I'll give him that. But while he's looking, I got a question for you. What do you think from everything that's happened with Yeti and with your training and with the coach? What is your biggest takeaway? Like, what do you feel like is the biggest thing that you've learned that's helped you?
Probably just adaptability. I had this plan, this nutrition plan, and in my mind, this year. This nutrition plan was going to last the whole 100 miles, and when at mile 50 it stopped working and I could not stomach another bite of what I was eating. One of my pacers just said, well, man, that's awesome. That worked for 50 miles. Let's figure out what's going to work for the next 50. And, never really gave me an opportunity to kind of have the pity party that I was about to have or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, being adaptable, man, just not being so tied to something that when a goal, a nutrition plan, a hydration plan, anything, when things start going wrong, keep moving, but figure it out while you're out there. Just figure things out as you move along, because at some point there's going to be that potato soup at Green Cove, and it's going to hit the spot, and then when you come back down, your wife's going to have you some hot mashed potatoes at Taylor's Valley that she's gone and found a grocery store open and gotten. I mean, I was getting some special treatment out there where I benefited from my crew immensely there, because I got there and we've got some nice warm mashed potatoes when it's getting cold, and they hit the spot. So just find that potato soup out there somewhere.
Yeah, you never know what's going to work.
That's right.
Don't give up.
Absolutely.
I like your pacer though. That was good advice, or at least a good way to turn it around and say, hey, that worked for 50 miles. Let's see what we can do now. I love that.
He was just like, well, that's great. That worked for 50 miles. You ate that one thing for 50 miles.
I can only imagine the bad thoughts going through your head right there.
I've gotten so mad at him out on horses, but he is a friend like no other, man. It really, he calls himself my closer.
I like it. That's awesome. It don't happen without me, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. So the first question we have is, what was the difference between your first time at the Yeti and your last one?
Well, number one, there was no rain. 2020 was the wetty Yeti, where we had 16 hours of constant downpour. So that was a big difference. But I think from my standpoint, really, it was just the mental state that I was in. I mean, I was in a great spot 2020 to finish, but I really felt like there was just that next level of grit there this year, that even when didn't get sub 24 this year, didn't matter. I'm still gonna finish as quick as I can. My buddy, y'all love this one. I said, well, if I can't finish sub 24, I at least want to cut time off of my first finish. And he said, well, it'll be pretty hard not to cut time off and still finish. Thanks, man. but was able to cut 2.5 hours off of my finish time there. So
that's awesome.
But I think the biggest difference is just kind of my mental state and where I was at, and mental preparedness, I guess, the best way to put it.
Okay. I think we've already covered this one, but when did you first start running?
So I first started running. This is interesting. I first started running. It's going to sound odd, but when I was in probably 8th or 9th grade, getting ready for football, I lived near a cemetery, and I had my mom go in her car and map out a mile in that cemetery, and I ran in a cemetery all the time to get ready. Now, that running did not translate into running any 5Ks or anything like that, but I ran a little bit there, just getting ready for sports type things. But probably 2006, 2007 is when I kind of really the running career started.
How has your overall running experience been? Has it changed your life or helped it improve?
Yeah. I mean, it's changed my life for the better, 100%. I mean, and hopefully not just my life, but my family's lives too. I mean, it's. I think that's the biggest thing for me is that. Well, like I said, I've got one son that's playing college baseball, and I've got one son that's aspiring to play in the marching band in college, and they have seen me do things and not quit things when things get hard. And so when baseball practice gets hard, or my son doesn't want to practice his tuba anymore, and sometimes we don't want him to practice his tuba anymore in the house, but those type things, it's time to just go out there and get it done, so absolutely it's affected my life, and really, not just running, but this ultra community, them seeing us achieve these hard goals, but also them seeing volunteers and people who are out there serving others.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to be humble in everything I do, and really the volunteers that are out there just make such a big difference, and so I think seeing all that has kind of helped to shape all of us and make all our lives better.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and you also, just thinking about what you just said, you also showed your kids that it's okay to have a bad season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because you did. You had a bad season, and you know what? You lined up at that starting line every time, knowing that you could fail, and you showed them that. And that's a lesson that a lot of kids need to know is you may have a bad season. You might have a bad day, but you may have a bad season. You may have a bad year, but that doesn't mean that's going to make it a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you've showed them that, and you've inspired a lot of people with that story, Chuck. I think that's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, what would you say your hardest race was?
They're all so different, man. I mean, honestly, the race that I found the hardest is probably that Georgia Jewel 50 miler. I mean, not just the distance. I mean, obviously 100 miles harder than a 50 miler, but from the standpoint of how ill prepared I was, how uninformed I was, like I had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, I really didn't. But even at that one, man, I just when we got to the start line and Jenny Baker gives her pre-race speech up there, man, I was like ready to go, but I think that one sticks out in my mind. I mean, they're all hard in their own way, but really the times that I got freaked out the most was out there in that one, in the woods by myself, thinking this thing's never. I was ready to see Mount Baker.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a super technical course. It's if you don't read anything about it, you have no idea what you're walking into.
Oh, that rock garden. When I heard you guys talking about the rock garden on, I can't remember what podcast episode it was, but I was like, man, I get it. That thing, it was so brutal. It was so brutal. Like, just you don't know if you next step you take, you're gonna break your ankle.
Yeah.
No, and I can't imagine doing it in the dark. Like,
oh, it's awful. It was awful.
No, yeah. When I made it through them, it was both during the day. Luckily.
Yeah,
So
it was
that was my first one back in 2018, 2019. That was my first 100 miler, and of course, I don't read emails. We just go to races and sign up, And like I said, I got to that point, and David was pacing me. And I just swore that we were lost because I just couldn't see no signs. I didn't see I was nothing. I was like, we're lost. We've lost the course, and I'm stopping out. It's went in my mind. So we all
know. No trail.
There is no trail. There is no trail. You're at the end of it too, so you're already at the end of your wits. And so yes. Oh yeah, we can visualize this entire thing with you completely.
Oh yeah.
It was so bad.
So, what is your nutrition of choice, such as hydration and food?
Okay. I love Hoist for hydration. It's been I can't do super sweet for long. And to me, hoist kind of has a little more of that citrusy, sour taste to it. So I did that. I mean, I think I kept sipping on hoist all the way through Yeti. It was a big part of the hydration plan. Nutrition wise, I do. My favorite thing to do is sticky rice soaked in soy sauce. So I put it in, I put it, yeah, I put it in little plastic bags. This was my coach's idea. I can't take credit for it. She suggested that to me because it's something, again, I can't do super sweet for long. I can do fruit, but like watermelon, bananas usually. But that stuff got me through the first 50 miles that was really all I was eating. I would eat one of those. Each ball I think I made up was 180 calories or something like that, and so I'd eat that. Try to drink a hoist. Get about 60, 70 calories per hour from the hoist in me, and try to hit that 250, 270 calories per hour there doing that. But I love that, man. It's something that I actually look forward to eating when I'm out there.
Well, that's awesome. Besides potatoes.
Yeah, the potatoes were awesome. Those mashed potatoes in the Yeti mug were legit. That was legit.
So on the hoist, do you like the powder better, or do you like the bottles?
I like the bottles. I'm a big, was it Dragonberry? I think is
Dragonberry. That's the purple one.
Yeah,
the purple one. That now I haven't tried the new black cherry. I've got to get a case of that ordered. But and Hoist actually came. They sponsored my race that I hosted. Was pretty awesome. I just kind of reached out to those guys. They were awesome on
yeah, they really are. They sponsor a lot of stuff we get involved with.
Yeah,
they're our hydration for all of our races.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, everybody at my race absolutely loved it. I mean, it was. We had people who had never heard of it, and the race we did, it got super hot. Like it was Mother's Day weekend. We'd not probably been above 80 degrees all year, and all of a sudden it's 87 degrees that day, and so people were just suffering. Nobody was heat acclimated. And there was a lot of hoist consumed.
Oh, yeah. So your first 100 miler would have been the Yeti, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I guess your favorite food during your race would be sticky rice and soy sauce?
Yeah, that and potatoes. Yeah, I guess so.
You mix them all together.
Dinner in there with potatoes.
Can you put into words what it meant to finish and get your redemption?
Wow. I don't know, man. It's hard to put that into words. This is such a selfish sport. It takes us away from our families. We're out running for hours and hours on weekends, and so to me it was finishing that, not just for me, but for my family, my crew, and my pacers, and all that. Getting that done when we've invested all this time and all that. It meant the world, man. I mean, it just fueled the fire. You guys know how it is. I mean, so typically I wait till after the race to start planning the next one. I was planning the next one at this race. Like, I mean,
Ultra sign up in the race.
Well, in my head, yeah, I was there.
He's getting to the aid station. He's like, all right, what we got coming up in the next few months I can do?
I'm thinking about, all right, when does registration for this race open? When what all I have to register for, but no, it was just it was good because I really in my head was afraid that I might be done with the 100-mile distance, and I love that distance, and it was so good to get it done and to know, hey, we're ready for some more now.
Well, and that's one thing that we all of us need to work on as we end this podcast is that, remember, this race went really well, and you got to try to not put an expectation on your next race. Yeah. What we all have to work on a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because when we set that expectation on ourselves, we're putting pressure on something that, just like you said, every 100 miler, it can be humbling. It can change. It can be different. Something new can go wrong. So, we all got to remember that, and remember that in your next 100 miler too, because
absolutely.
It's been humbling for me this whole year. I've had a season. I can say that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I got to say, 2022. I don't think I towed the line at all. I signed up for a lot of races, but I don't think I towed the line at any of them. I had to have a surgery, and it was just one thing after another, and getting that finish kind of one of those things where you don't know how much you're going to miss it until you can't do it anymore, it was awesome. It was just really awesome to get that finish and to have that kind of monkey off my back and to be back in the game getting after it.
Boy, that's a big difference, isn't it? When you choose not to do something versus having something taken from you.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a big difference.
Mm-hmm. It is. You miss it. You don't realize how much you miss getting up early in the morning to go run in 100-degree heat and 80-90% humidity. But you do. It's a part of who we are. I think there's something a little wrong with all of us because we enjoy doing this. But that's our normal. So.
So I've got two more questions here.
Okay.
And we just talked about, you kind of went into it about you're already planning for your next race.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your next race?
So the next race I'm running is going to be the Mount Cheehaw 50K. I'm going to go for the whole Pinhoti series this year, which is Cheehaw 50K, Rockin' Chakalaka 50K, Rebecca Mountain 50 miler, and then finishes up with a Pinhoti 100. So that's the plan for this coming year. Maybe another one slipped in there somewhere. I hadn't quite figured it all out yet, but right now I'm just kind of running, kind of maintaining at this point, and we'll start in the next couple of weeks really getting my climbing legs back, because you don't realize how much you're running a lot of flats to get ready for Yeti. And I did a little 10K that had a little climbing in it, and it was rough, son. It told on me real quick. You miss those climbing legs.
Yep. So the last question, we've started asking this to be the last one. You kind of touched on it earlier, but what is your why? Why do you run?
I run to teach my kids and my family that we can do hard things. Kind of one of the biggest payoffs for me, and I don't even remember what it was about, but my youngest son, we had gotten home from somewhere, and my wife was talking about not doing something. I don't even remember what the subject was, but he looked her dead in the eye and he said, "Mom, we do hard things." And that, because it's sinking in, and so that's my why. I want to see other people get inspired and get out and run and get healthy, and I want to help people along that journey as much as I possibly can. But my true why is my family and my kids, to teach them that we can do hard things, we can succeed sometimes, we can fail sometimes, and then we can get redemption and go out there and get it.
Man, I love it. That's
right.
a great life.
Good deal, man.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you,
podcast. It's inspiring story.
Yeah.
Hope to see you at a race in the near future. And speaking of that, me and you actually ran a race in 2020 as we end this call.
Really? Which one?
I ran Frosty Foot the same year you did. I didn't even know it till we were looking through here.
Oh, that was a miserable race, man.
Yes, it was.
I
shed all my clothes off, like jacket and everything, gloves, beanie, everything in the middle of this race right before it started raining.
Oh, man, that rain was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah, that one, I was having a conversation on the way home with a buddy of mine, and that's when we first started saying, there's something wrong with us, man. Like, we do this. I mean, it was so cold and so miserable, and it truly was frosty foot because my feet got soaking wet and were freezing cold. But, yeah, I didn't know that. That was a fun race, man. Aaron Saff's a good dude. That was a fun race.
Yeah, and the race director over No Business, Brian Gages, he's taking it over starting next year. And it's going to be called Solly, and I imagine he's going to, make it just as fun, or he'll put
just as miserable as it was.
Yeah, it's a cool trail and race, but it is miserably cold. Just to be real.
It is. It was. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for your time, man, and thank you for sharing your awesome story with us.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
Chuck.